10 new additions for the Phoenix Suns, whether re-signings or brand new players. A whole new rotation. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, we'll rank those players 10-1 in terms of who's going to make the biggest impact as the Suns chase a championship in 2024. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show, wherever you get your podcast. A big thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start your week. Just subscribe or follow if you're finding us for the first time. Search Locked On Suns wherever you get your podcast. We're free and available everywhere, every single day throughout the offseason and beyond. Brandon Dueñas is joining us here on this Monday, as he does every week, and we are going to be ranking. But before we dive into that, Brandon, first, today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks, of course, which is you're going to use the promo code Locked On. First-time users receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 right back into your account when you use that promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. But what I was going to say is part of the reason I wanted to do this is, I don't know if you caught this interview that James Jones did with Dwayne Rankin at the Arizona Republic. They talked a little bit about DeAndre Ayton and his comments over in the Bahamas, which has been getting a lot of attention. I don't think there's much new there personally, but that was part of their conversation. The thing that caught my eye, though, was James talking about, he used multiple times, I believe, the phrase mid-prime veterans. And when you hear a phrase that specific, like, it catches my attention because it's not an accident to use a word like that. That's not exactly like a normal thing that everybody that cares about the NBA necessarily says. And so it made me feel like that was the target and kind of the way that James Jones and that front office were thinking about it. What do you think of that idea? Because you think about it, almost every guy we're going to talk about could be described that way.
Oh, absolutely. That's why this offseason, I think, was such a great one, and it's going to age even better than we think. Because I know, like, we're both pretty high on what they did overall, considering like the circumstances that they had financially. Like, I think they knocked it out of the park. But targeting a lot of guys that are hungry and like you said, those mid prime vets that they've been in the league a little bit, but they're still trying to make a mark for themselves and get that big payday, create that reputation for themselves. And what better system to do it in than being surrounded by 3 just elite scorers. So I think the combination of the youth, the experience, and the hunger is like just what really excites me about this team. So I think they, like I said, there's gonna be a lot of guys that Eubanks, Bates-Diop, even Yuta, like, they're going to surprise you at how well they play and just seamlessly fit into this system. So that's the thing that I think stands out the most.
And it's funny. It makes you think James Jones might be onto something because in exactly the same way that he likes to draft older guys, in this situation, he is also now finding guys who were older when they came into the NBA, who are coming off of basically what, for the most part, you would say is like their first contract, their first real NBA contract, but yet are a little bit older. So it does kind of fit what he's done in the past, but it also insulates them from what I think a lot of people's number one concern is about this team, especially from Durant and Beal, which is health, right? If you choose to go the route of younger depth pieces instead of the old ring chasing guys, then you're just maximizing the likelihood that you have at least like an 8-10 man rotation at all times, and you're not having to get desperate, which is what we saw even last year when this team was fairly young, but you had Crowder away and Cam Johnson hurt and Chris Paul in and out and Devin Booker in and out. So I think it makes sense from every angle. Part of me does worry about the idea of sort of what happens. The Bruce Brown example has been thrown around a lot as kind of a worst case scenario with some of this. If you do get a great season from some of these guys, maybe you're less likely to retain them. But I think if you get a great season from them enough that they leave, as we saw with that Bruce Brown example, you're probably walking away from the season pretty happy, whether it's a championship or not. I think you'll take it. So that's a great throat clearing. Let's get to the list. My number 10, We're going to go 10-7 in this first segment, and we'll get to 1 by the end here. But we'll go pretty quickly, I think, through these back guys because, again, they're the guys we expect. It's impact. It's how much will they impact the team in the upcoming season. Not ceiling, not upside, not excitement to watch them, none of that stuff. So my number 10 is Bol. I just think he's the third center on this team right now. He was the last addition to this team. He has probably the least track record of anybody outside of Kamara just because he's a rookie. So as much as I think there are some fun ways that we could see Bol impact this team, I think right now, heading into training camp and everything else, he's at the back for me.
Listen, man, Bol slander will not be tolerated on this show.
All right, so you got him 1 then? Are we going to end the show with Bol on your list?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's number 1 for sure. No, he's not too far behind, but my number 10 is going to be it's the rookie, Kamara. Like, I do think I do like him. Like we talked about him last week and the week before that a little bit too. Just I think there's a chance he makes an impact, but he has to prove it. He's still a rookie, so I got to give him the rookie treatment. Put him at number 10.
Yeah, one thing I don't know if I've touched on because I don't know the answer, but I don't know. I don't think of Frank Vogel in any one particular way. Like Mike Malone, I don't know why I keep thinking of the Nuggets today, but he's a guy where it's like his reputation is he doesn't like to play rookies. Obviously, Monty Williams was a little bit stubborn about that. I don't know about Frank Vogel. He's a number 52 pick. So regardless, you wouldn't expect him to play. But that is something I've never really gotten a clear read on is Vogel a guy who is okay playing young dudes and letting them make mistakes? Is he not? I don't know. He hasn't really been in a lot of situations because he's won so much where, he's really had to make that decision. We'll see. So Kamara's number 9 for me. That's why I elaborated a little bit there. So I'll go back to you for your number 9.
So number 9, I'm gonna put Metu. This feels wrong because I do think there's kind of a cluster there, like with the bigs, and I think there's gonna be a chance that he drops because I'm pretty high on Eubanks. I think he's gonna run away with that backup 5 job. Like I'm on that train. So I think there's gonna be parts of the season where Metu's gonna get a lot of DNPs, but he's someone that if something happens, injuries, foul trouble, I think you could plug him in and he's reliable. He'll give you solid minutes. So it's not really a knock on him. It's just more impact and opportunity that puts him there.
Let me put it this way with Metu. Do you think he's a better third big than Bismack Biyombo has been for this team in the past? Whether that was JaVale being the second guy, last year Jock being the second guy, because I kind of feel like Metu might be an upgrade there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think Metu's an upgrade over Bismack, and I would feel a lot more comfortable playing him in a playoff game if it came down to it than I would Bismack. So, yeah, I really like their big man rotation this year, but I just think like every rotation, there's going to be one odd man out, and it feels like it's going to be him at this point. All
right, you're number 8 then.
Bol.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to take a swing on the upside and just I think like I mentioned earlier, just this system is if he can't figure it out here, it's going to be tough for him to figure out anywhere. Really, I think it's perfectly built for him to succeed. He's not going to have a lot of pressure to do too much offensively, and his ability to contest shots. I think Vogel's going to use him in a way that will be really creative defensively, and that's what excites me about him. I know I watched his film. I know there's the lows are low. The highs are high. You can't get too caught up in the highlight reels, but I think there's a chance that he could really break out. And to me, that upside puts him above Metu for now.
Yeah, I know Vogel's not a big zone guy, but we did see them play it in Summer League. I think even that is kind of a way that you could see him maximized. I think lineups where you're just trying to go all offense or even, a bench unit. I don't know what their kind of staggering situation is going to be like, but you could see a really spaced out lineup, maybe centered around Durant ISOs or things like that, where, we've seen that in Brooklyn in the past where they put, Jeff Green and Landry Shamet and Bruce Brown and just kind of said, hey, this is the KD show, but do your job. And you could see Bol in a simplified environment like that make an impact. I think there are ways. I'm a little bit different than you where I do think Metu, just because of the more trustworthiness of him, I have him a little bit higher on my list, but I don't think it would be crazy if Bol supplanted him. I think you and I are on the same page on Eubanks, though, and maybe get to him in the next segment. My number 8 is Damian Lee. Not a lot to say there. I think he'll be sort of a break in case of emergency type of player. I don't think that he's going to start the season in the rotation, but we know what he can do if he gets the opportunity. He's going to make his threes so long as he's taking them. He doesn't really turn the ball over, makes pretty good decisions, isn't like a terrible weak point defensively. So I had no issue with them bringing him back, but I also don't expect him to, be a huge part of the team in terms of on the court.
Yeah, no, I agree. Lee is my next guy as well. So, I'm not super high on him, but like you said, he's just someone you can rely on to knock down open shots. And there's going to be a lot of them when you're playing alongside the guys who'll play along. So he's not going to hurt you too much, but he's also not someone I'm crazy about. So just a reliable vet, good locker room guy to have. So not mad at the Damian Lee signing. Would I have brought him back? Probably not, but I get it for sure.
And close with KD, right? So there's some of that off court stuff that probably factors in. And I don't know if he's somebody that they're anticipating giving a raise to, but in this type of situation, the Suns cap wise, never hurts to accrue years of team control or team connection where you can give them a bigger increase on their salary and free agency, like we've talked a lot about. So there were reasons it makes sense. But yeah, I think if you're in, as we saw last year, if you're in a situation where you're relying on him too heavily, it's probably not going to be a great scenario. 7 for me with Chimezie Metu. So we're in lockstep on who the 4 guys were, just in a little bit of a different order here. I think Metu's perfectly reasonable. I think he's a good balance where Bol is a little more probably defensively gifted and Metu more offensively. Let's jump to 6 through 4 here next. First, today's show brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks has come in and fixed daily fantasy sports. It used to be a pain. It used to be a real money suck, frankly, but Prize Picks has come in and they've eliminated the pools, the hustlers, the sharks that are there to screw you. It is no head-to-head, no league, no pool. It is just you versus the Prize Picks player projections, and they have them for every sport. So maybe you're still waiting for your basketball fix. They do have WNBA going on, but they have baseball, they have tennis, they have racing, everything that you love sports-wise. They're going to have projections for it. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. They offer safe and fast withdrawals, and they're currently operational in over 30 states, including Arizona, as well as Canada. So download the Prize Picks app now or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code Locked On, meaning if you deposit 100, Prize Picks matches that right back into your account. Don't forget to enter the promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. All right, we're coming back here. Number 6, I'll go first. I have Yuta Watanabe here. The case being that I just think there are some players who are a little bit more defensively inclined, even if Yuta defends as a team guy well and has size. I just think when push comes to shove and we're looking at closing lineups in must-win games or just, over the course of a season, as much as I trust Yuta to be in a rotation and not make mistakes, I mean, we're talking outside of the big 4, and I'm here at number 6. So, in a 10-man rotation, I would expect him to play, but he is at the back end of that just for that reason. I don't think he quite has the athleticism or the youth and all these different things that I would think could maximize his impact at the biggest stage. So that's why I have him at 6. Who's your number 6?
So I went with Goodwin here. I think I think him and Okogie are kind of in that same little group for me where their point of attack defense is gonna be important. Can they hit shots? That's really his ticket to playing time and just his ability to play off the ball and run some point. There's just not a ton of guards in the rotation, so he's going to get an opportunity just based on looking at the roster. But yeah, he comes in at number 6 for me.
I like it. I think we're going to disagree quite a bit then here. So that's good. Sometimes you do these and it's like we've been doing podcasts for a while. You might agree too much. That does not seem like it's going to be the case. I'll let you do number 5 here to start us off.
So number 5 for me is Okogie. I put him and Goodwin there kind of neck and neck just because I do think it will come down to one of those two guys is going to probably be the odd man out of the rotation, especially once they shrink it down a little bit, just due to skill sets. You can't really have two guys that can't shoot consistently on the court at the same time. I think there will be moments where they will play together, but yeah, to me, those two guys, one of them will jump in front of the other at some point this season for sure. Who you got?
Which one do you like more, just in a vacuum, knowing what we know now, which is relatively limited? I mean, Okogie and Goodwin, I would call them both unproven, even though Okogie did play well in spurts last year. like the best version of each of those guys? I mean, obviously you have Okogie a little bit higher, but who do you think in a dream world is the most impactful player?
I would say Okogie. Just if he can just figure out that jumper, man, like those flashes last season were very, very interesting. Like he took over some games, and I think people forget how dominant he was in certain stretches. So that's there. Like he's shown that. Now it's just about harnessing it. He's still pretty young, the wingspan. I'm still pretty high on Goodwin, but I think Okogie's defense, like some of those highs were just unbelievable. So to me, I'd put him slightly above Goodwin for that reason, especially with the athleticism. So it's close.
So Okogie's coming up for me, so that's why I'm spending a little more time on him. My number 5 is Drew Eubanks, but get to him in a second. I think Okogie, to me, it feels like I've been beating this drum since preseason last year, but if they are just more ready to use him as a screener, use him in the short roll, just get more creative, play him like he's a big man offensively, I think that would just go a long way. And you're even less reliant on the jumper, and maybe kind of the limited shots that maybe he does take in that situation are even more in rhythm and open. Like I get that even an open corner 3 theoretically should be pretty easy for even a not great shooter. But at the end of the day, there were a lot of games where he was taking a lot of those shots. And you think about the Bruce Brown or the Gary Payton, the guys who have been kind of played like that before, they're not even taking those threes, right? They're just kind of continuing to move the ball and feed the star and play off of superstar players, even if there's like an quote unquote open 3. So I would hope that in year 2, kind of, working with Kevin Young, working with Booker and Ayton and even Durant a little bit, that he's just kind of more ready to be playing off of other guys. Maybe that helps him. Number 5, yeah, I said it, Eubanks. I feel like he's going to be the backup center on this team, so there's only so low you can put him. And, I'm a little worried about him being somewhat undersized. I'm a little bit worried that he's not maybe the most versatile offensive player. But if you're talking about a guy who is playing 15 minutes for you, he was a starter last year on a team that, they weren't great, but they were definitely not terrible when they were trying to win. And that says something. So I think he's going to be pretty impactful and I think do his job really, really well. So he's at 5.
Yeah, I've got him at 4. So not too much of a difference there. I'm like I said, I'm pretty high on him. I think Vogel's going to get the most out of him, and just playing. And I'll just repeat myself. I'll beat the dead horse. Just playing alongside all these stars is going to really make a lot of these guys' life so much easier. And I think he's going to come in and give them a productive 15, 20 minutes every game. And there's going to be a point of the season where Suns fans will say, start him over 8. And it's going to happen.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm like, it's really not a great thing for Ayton's on-off stuff, which has always been kind of ugly outside of the finals year, because they've had pretty decent backup bigs a lot of the time. And then it's just gonna fuel it, the narrative and everything, which does suck. You're right.
Yeah, but I think to credit Eubanks, like he's been in some bad situations defensively and with roster construction, all that stuff. And I think that having a situation like this, a little bit of experience and like some larger roles, like is going to help him really just mesh in well. And I think just prove to the rest of the league that he's a legitimate backup 5 with a chance to start on some teams. And like I said, a lot of these guys want to get that next payday. They want to prove they can start in different organizations. So it's going to be a showcase for him.
Yeah, a lot of people have pointed to, what I would say is I pointed out that he's maybe not the traditional type of athlete that you might want in terms of a modern kind of rim protector in the mold that he is, because he doesn't shoot or create his own shot or pass or do any of that. You would want maybe like a more a bigger, more traditionally athletic guy. But then, people have pointed out to me, and I'll eat it, like he was 7th in the NBA in block rate last year, and he might not do it in the same way. He's 6'9", and obviously doesn't have the 7'5" wingspan or any of that stuff. He's not going to necessarily do a dunk contest like he's Dwight Howard, but he gets the job done for you, and the numbers, you can't argue with that. So I think he's going to make a pretty big impact. Does it just really quick, does it concern you at all that the Ayton to Eubanks style, especially defensively, that they might play a little bit differently. That always worries me with any type of player. If the starter to the backup involves like, we're going to have to adjust our style a little bit, because it just creates a lot for players to have to keep track of and a lot of adjustment on the fly. Does that worry you, or am I overthinking that?
No, I think it's a fair point. It doesn't worry me as much, just because I think you could look at it the other way and say it's a good thing to have a different look to counter different lineups and make adjustments based on the team you're playing. But I think in Vogel's system too, it's going to be they're going to have something in place where they're going to all be on the same page and defensively, and they're going to have probably the similar responsibilities on that end. So I don't think it's going to be as different as, even though skill set wise and theoretically, like you're right, I think there's definitely some differences between the two, but I think Vogel's going to find a way to just make it very fluid across the board. Doesn't matter who plays. This is what we're doing. And I think that's why he's a great fit for this job. So to me, yeah, Eubanks, I think he's going to have some surprising blocks and dunks, and he's got that dog in him. So be ready for it, Suns fans. He's going to be one of those guys that I think is going to surprise some people this year.
Absolutely. Two former Spurs on this list, which are on the team now, which is
gross,
intriguing. Well, gross, yeah, I guess for kind of the old rivalry, but just also interesting because not a lot of people were paying attention to that team, but I guess Sun scouts maybe were. All right, let's go to our top three, which includes somebody in my end who was Brandon's number 6, which means we have a pretty big difference. I'll get to that after one more quick break. Coming back, let's close things out. 3, 2, and 1 in our Suns role player. What do we call them? Mid-prime veteran role player additions. Jordan Goodwin is my number 3, Brandon. I just think that if you're talking about the shot, which is what you alluded to when you were comparing him and Okogie, he does have a slightly better track record considering he's younger a little bit and has already had a better shooting season than really like Okogie has ever had. His corner threes and wide open 3 numbers were pretty good last year. It is a pretty small sample size, which he does have working against him a bit. But I also think from a ball handling perspective, he's a little more comfortable doing that. So maybe doesn't require as much of those unique adjustments and improvise-y types of situations that I was talking about with Okogie. So they're back-to-back for me too. I just have them a little bit higher than you did. I have them at 4 and 3. We broke it up with commercial break, but they are back-to-back. I do have Goodwin a little bit ahead.
Yeah, that's fair. And honestly, for me, like 2 through 6 are the margins are razor thin in between these guys. Like it's not like there's any huge gaps or anything. So there's a world where I could definitely get behind Goodwin being one of their first few guys off the bench and being productive. So it's a disagreement ranking wise, but it's not anything crazy. So
yeah, you do number 3 now.
All right, number 3, I got Yuta Watanabe. I think he's going to thrive in this system. I think his ability to cut, play off the ball, hit open shots, and play that smart, just team defense rotationally, and just being in the right place at the right time. He's going to have a monster season. And I think, you just look at Landry Shamet, all the looks like he got. Just think of a taller version of that with a quicker release that. Actually, I don't know about the quicker release. They're probably pretty similar in terms of that, but just the ability to get the shot off over smaller defenders and hit spot ups in the corner. Like he's gonna get paid here. Like I'm telling you right now, he's gonna be one of those players that his life's gonna be so easy. He's gonna love it, and some other teams in this offseason is gonna end up paying him.
Seems like it might be headed that way. He is also a little bit older, so you would understand if he's tired of, he's been on and off and jumping around for 5 years now in the league, and it seems like he's a fan favorite everywhere he goes, and then the team doesn't bring him back. So he does seem like one of the candidates to, have a really great year and then maybe just want to cash in, maybe similar to Torrey Craig after the finals run, right? Where it was like every Suns fan kind of wanted him. I'm sure the team did, but Indiana gave him like a gross offer, and it was just like, okay, you get it, right? But yeah, I think this will be interesting. I feel like it's not that I'm low on Yuta, but you've been beating that drum the whole time, and I would be excited to be proven wrong. I mean, a 6'9" dude who can really shoot it, like every team wants that. I guess I just have a little bit of a question about, one-on-one and different things. In the regular season, it probably won't crop up, but, one-on-one defensively. And maybe I'm overreacting to Anthony Edwards just completely destroying him the one time a few years back in terms of defense, but maybe that's sticking in my head. I don't know.
And I'll go out there and say, I think he's going to flirt with 50% from three. Like, I think it's going to be that type of season. Just the open looks, he's already a good shooter as it is, and now it's going to get easier. That's my prediction. I think he'll be in 3-point shootout. I think he'll be in the 45 to 50 range, and it's going to be lights out.
One of those very familiar, crazy shooting season that a lot of Suns players have had as role players. I guess he'll be in good company. Quentin Richardson and Channing Frye and whoever else you want to point to over the years. Like Dan Marley's probably a little overqualified. Maybe Danny Ainge, you would say.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2, I have Keita Bates-Diop. We have the same number 2. I don't know if we're in the same order here, but I think Bates-Diop will start. I'm not sure if he will close. So that is part of why I have him at 2. He's also just younger. There is the chance that some of what we saw in San Antonio is not real, but the more that I hear people like Nekias Duncan or Zach Lowe, people who were watching the Spurs maybe more because they're paid to, and they are thrilled about him, it just backs up my excitement for a guy who I probably didn't react strongly enough when they added him, but just hearing more, the cutting, the shooting, the size, the defensive versatility. I mean, my last real memory of this guy was like scouting him ahead of the 2018 draft, and I have not kept up a ton. But if everything that people are saying is true, I think he will start, and I think he'll be a positive for this team and really add to their identity of size and versatility.
Yeah, he's my number 2 as well. And for all the reasons you hit on, I think, obviously not a lot of people watched the Spurs last year, and it was a situation where it's kind of tough to stand out or rise above that environment. But I think he did a solid job, and he's only going to do better in this environment.
Yeah, 61% true shooting.
Yeah,
he was, a little bit of a negative on defense, but honestly, when you correct that for being on a bad team, like he's defensive box plus minus wise, he's never been lower than like a minus 0.9, which is like, whatever.
I think him and Beal,
a role player.
Sorry to cut you off. I think him and Beal are going to surprise some people defensively. Like I've just seen, there's too many team factors when it comes to a lot of these stats, and you put someone in the right situation, they're going to look a lot different.
Yeah. All right. Number 1, sounds like we're on the same page here. Eric Gordon. I have to admit, I'm not, maybe I want to tamp down expectations a little bit, even though I have him at number 1. That might be a weird place to jump, and we don't have to spend too much time on him because I think people are the most familiar with what he is going to bring. But I do think there's a real chance that Goodwin, Bates-Diop, Watanabe, Kogi are closing games ahead of him. I don't think he's just like, I don't think we should pencil him in for 30 minutes every single night from game 1 through, a championship winning game 6 in the finals. Like, I think people, because of our history with him and everything else, maybe got a little bit too excited. I just love the stability. I love the shooting. I love the physicality. I love the know-how with the ball in his hands, all that different stuff. I think he's certainly starting caliber player in this league who could have made a lot more money, and you got him on a minimum. Like, he's going to be a real difference maker. And I feel very confident saying that, but I mean, it's not like they got another all-star, and it just feels like Suns fans, like, I'm like, okay, like, I don't want us to set this guy up to disappoint us because we're going so far with it, but I do have him at number 1 still.
Yeah, we're not getting prime Eric Gordon, so we can dismiss that. But I agree. I think he's going to be. Actually, disagree a little bit because you said you're not sure he's going to be closing. I think he's by far the favorite to close and should until he loses it. Essentially, okay. I just think the versatility of having 3 guards like Booker, Beal, and Gordon that can handle, shoot, and play off the ball, it's going to be a nightmare for teams to guard. There are some concerns though with the on-ball defense, like who's going to guard the opponent's best player on ball, stuff like that. And
a little small, I would say.
Yeah. But yeah, I do really like this fit. And I think just having him as insurance throughout the regular season too, if one of Booker or Beal misses some time, you could plug him right in. And you're not really going to skip a beat. Like, who would have thought, like, if Booker went down, we'd have 3 guys that could potentially drop 30 on a roster. Like it feels like it doesn't feel real at this point.
That's the part that I'm the most excited about for sure, I think, with Gordon is even if we'll see about the closing, and I agree with you, he has pole position to be that guy on opening night. I just don't know if it'll be an every night thing quite the same way that maybe other people do. I think the ability to say Booker did go down or Beal did go down, even I think you could see him starting in place of Durant if Durant has to miss time with injury. And then if it's Keita who had kind of been the 3, then Keita slides to the 4 and you have Gordon there, like because of the versatility and the comfort and the veteran experience, like he's going to be the number 1 replacement as a starter. And I like that a lot too, just because in the regular season, I trust him to do his job and, knock down open shots, again, be comfortable with the ball in his hands if he has to, execute a defensive scheme. Like, he's your 4th pitcher in MLB that you just trust every 4 days, right? Like he's just going to be solid for you. All right, that'll wrap us up. Quick ranking show to recap the offseason, get you guys excited for the regular season. We'll have more news, hopefully G League stuff. I don't know why it's being slow rolled. I want to know where they're going to play. I want to know what the team's name is going to be, and Matt Ishbia to stop teasing us. We'll see what comes this week. You can read Brandon over at Bright Side of the Sun. They'll have you covered from a writing standpoint every day on all of this stuff, and I will catch you all tomorrow.